All right, we need to switch gears here a little bit. I know we were going to get back to the newscast, but just issued a tornado warning for Sussex County. You can see the red polygon right there, indicative of what will likely be a situation where it'll be almost impossible to see if there is one headed your way. So you have to keep that in mind here if you're going to be out and about in the area of Sussex County here. This is Route 16 coming across Greenwood. This is where some of the similar areas where we had that tornado track a few months ago. So keeping this in mind here as we go forward for the evening, a tornado warning in effect until 6:45. That goes with a severe thunderstorm warning blanketing Sussex County until 7:15. So
the National Weather Service in Mount Holly, New Jersey has issued a tornado warning for northwestern Sussex County in southern Delaware until 6:45 p.m. At 6:17 p.m., severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado was located near Bridgeville, or 11 miles northwest of Georgetown, moving east at 40 miles per hour. Hazard, tornado. Source, radar indicated rotation. Impact, flying debris will be dangerous to those caught without shelter. Mobile homes will be damaged or destroyed. Damage to roofs, windows, and vehicles will occur. Tree damage is likely. Locations impacted include Bridgeville, Ellendale, and Greenwood. Take cover now. Move to a basement or an interior room on the lowest floor of a sturdy building. Avoid windows. If you are outdoors, in a mobile home, or in a vehicle, move to the closest substantial shelter and protect yourself from flying debris.
Continues to move into Sussex County here. Again, we're in the northern part of Sussex County. A tornado warning if you're just joining us here until 6:45. And I'm just doing a little street tracking here so you can see exactly where you need to take shelter in this vicinity here. So it's really along the line of the brighter greens that you see. That's just basically a wall of high winds coming in to Sussex County. And in that area, we could see a brief spin up. So I'm drawing a line right here. That's the kind of the wall of wind. And you got these areas right here with the higher wind velocity showing up on the radar picture. And that's where we could see a brief spin up. So this is all moving, though, off to the east at a fairly fast clip. Aside from the tornado threat, there is that threat just for high damaging wind. So what I want to do is zoom out here a little bit, kind of get the radar put into a loop so you can see where all of this is headed here. We're going to go back over to the reflectivity, and that's basically what shows where the heavy rain is. That's typically what we show you on a radar picture here. But again, it doesn't really show you where that threat for a tornado is. So that's why that polygon is on there, that red area that's drawn from the National Weather Service to let you know where there is the potential for a tornado. These storms are moving quick. Highway 16 over to Ellendale, 113 from Ellendale south to Georgetown. It's in that general vicinity right there that I would say to go to your safe place, turn up the TV here, just to keep an eye on what's happening, or keep an ear out, I should say, for what's happening, and not watch us here. Just get into your safe place so you can hear me call out the areas, and then eventually call out to areas where it's all clear. So I'm going to go ahead and put this into the latest image right here. This is what we're tracking coming across Owens. Get to your safe place right now, Highway 16. A few areas where I can tell you that the threat is over. Greenwood, Bridgeville. So some good news here with that. Again, these are areas that got hit pretty hard a while ago, a few months ago with that large tornado. Following a similar path, but I don't expect there to be a large tornado with this thunderstorm moving through. There's only the threat here for a small tornado, but damaging winds to go along with that, straight line winds. This is certainly something not to mess around with. But Bridgeville up to Greenwood, all clear. US 13 in that vicinity there in northern Sussex County. I can say that we are all clear at this point from any tornadic threat. And really the severe threat is ending, although I know that there still is a lot of heavy rain in this location. So this storm is getting really close to the National Weather Service radar site. You can see that there just south of Hudson Pond Acres outside of Ellendale. So we're going to get a good look into the storm with the radar beam. So I'm going to go from what reflectivity, tracking the rain, over to the velocity. And again, it's showing me that there is at least some very high winds within the storm that will at least bring down trees and cause minor damage to the area, and certainly not a situation where you would want to be outside. So those areas that I circled right there too, that's some of the highest wind reflectivities coming back to the radar, indicating where there could be damaging winds. We're looking at 60 to 70 mile per hour winds potentially with this storm coming through, and also that threat for a brief tornado. But one thing to remember here is that if there is a tornado, this is a situation where they're called or considered to be rain wrapped, where you would not see the tornado coming through. It's not a classic setup for an easily seen tornado. And I do want to stress that it's just kind of a wall of wind and water that's moving through. Even Jake Grant live at the fair just mentioned that too. When they got inside, I saw a couple of pictures he was showing me, a shelf cloud coming in, and basically it was just a ton of wind and water that was hitting their locations up there. So back to what we're looking at here, that red polygon that you see right there, that is a tornado warning. That is out until 6:45, so we have another 20 minutes left on this warning as it continues to work west to east here across the area. There's our live scan going over top of the storms as they've moved out of Greenwood. Again, if you're watching from Bridgeville and Greenwood, it's the all clear at this point. You are out of the threat zone for any tornadoes and really out of the threat zone for severe weather. This severe storm has now moved into the central northern part of Sussex County. So I want to talk about a few more locations taking shelter right now. If you live in Ellendale, up 113 to the Sussex-Kent County border in Milford, I would even just consider this to be a dangerous situation for you all too, simply from the straight line wind potential. Let's go out a little bit off to the east here. If you're watching from Highway 16, if you live anywhere near Highway 16, near the Ellendale area, you definitely want to find your safe space at this point and head to that location. Eventually into Milton, although you're not in the tornado warning at this moment, I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case here soon, that the National Weather Service updates that. Regardless, you're under a severe thunderstorm warning right now for the prospect for damaging winds of up to 70 miles per hour. Now, what I'll do here is I'm going to zoom out a little bit, show you all of Delmarva. I know we have a lot of people watching here and asking me, okay, Rich, why are we focusing on Sussex County? Right now, that is the only area underneath a tornado warning. And you can see that there with the red polygon in the northern part of the county. Seaford, Laurel, areas like Selbyville, Long Neck, the Delaware beaches, you all are at the moment not in the threat for a tornado, but you are under a severe thunderstorm warning for the threat for considerable wind damage. That goes until 7:15. Overall, this line of storms that you're seeing here coming across Delmarva has had a history of producing widespread wind damage back in the Washington and Baltimore, D.C. areas. As we saw yesterday afternoon and into the evening, the very hot environment that we have here across the area has just fed into these storms and has allowed them to become very severe as far as very heavy rain, lots of lightning, and of course that threat for damaging winds. So we've got the tornado warning in effect. I we keep reiterating here, and it might sound like I'm repeating myself, and I am for new people who are just joining, but also trying to keep you up to date on what's happening. In the Ellendale area, take shelter right now south of Ellendale down Highway 113, that's US 113 to Georgetown. Georgetown itself, you're going to be just south of where there is the potential for a spin-up tornado. Now, the radar is actually showing here in the reflectivity, and it's probably easily seen right here, kind of a little bend or a hook right here. Sometimes it's called a kink in the line. That indicates where there could be strengthening rotation, or at least some very high straight line winds that are starting to produce more of an eddy effect within the storm to produce that quick tornado. It's also important to remember that this is the reflectivity showing the heavy rain that's being wrapped around that circulation, so you will not see this if you were to look outside. It's very important that not to look for this thing as it comes through, as it will be rain wrapped. So there we go. Severe thunderstorm warning. It looks like it was just updated here from the National Weather Service for Sussex County for the potential of 70 mile per hour winds. The tornado warning and the red polygon there is out until 6:45. So looking at the larger view here, we're going to get back to the tornado warning in just a moment. If you're asking too, while we're still on air, we stay on air until tornado warnings have been dropped. We stay on air for the entirety of these warnings to keep you safe when within the viewing area here. So putting that into motion in the past hour, you see the radar loop. Those storms back into southern Maryland, they extend into Dorchester, Talbot counties, and even into far western Wicomico counties. Right now, a severe thunderstorm warning is in effect for Dorchester County, but notice that the returns on the reflectivity are not as bright, if you will. So the storm on the back edge here, not as strong, but I'll tell you this, the forward momentum of the storms and some of the wind that are coming out of the front edge of the reds and the oranges that you're seeing right there could easily be 40, 50, even 60 miles per hour. So in the Salisbury area, I would anticipate at least some very high wind gusts coming through here in the next 15 to 20 minutes. The same for Del Mar, Mardella Springs, down Highway 13 to Eden, Fruitland too, don't want to leave you out. And then eventually we'll be looking off to the east and south into areas like Somerset, far eastern Wycomico, and Worcester County. I would not be surprised if we saw some more warnings in anticipation of these storms moving through. So I'm letting the radar lapse here. This is in the past hour. You can see the storms racing in. Again, that tornado warning for northern and central Sussex County, north central Sussex County, until 6:45. And actually, the storm is going right over top of the radar site. You can see that.
Allendale, Federalsburg, and Delaware. This isn't Federalsburg, Maryland, of course. Federalsburg, Delaware, that we're seeing some of those storm systems move through the area. So we're going to move off to the east. So some of these locations that have not been impacted just yet, but could be impacted by any of this quick rotation that forms along this line of storms. Jefferson Crossroads, you're under that tornado warning. Slaughter Neck Road, Reynolds Mill, so Reynolds Pond Road. And then also, if this storm right now, we may see this expire at about 6:45. That's when it should expire. But if this continues off to the east, what's off to the east? Well, it's Milton. So we're going to continue to have to keep a close eye on that if we live in Milton, if we live off towards Broadkill Beach. So this is the area of the storm system that we have to keep a close eye on. But let's focus in on where the tornado warning is actually in effect currently. So we'll zoom this out. So storm system is right over top of the Route 113 corridor, Beaver Dam Road, Ellendale. So the town of Ellendale, the whole town of Ellendale is under that tornado warning. As I said earlier, this is the same track as what we saw on April 1st, but the difference is April 1st, we had confirmation that the tornado was on the ground. Right now, this is a radar indicated rotation, but you still need to treat it the same. You still need to be taking that shelter. You still need to be moving into your basement, into your lowest interior room. So we'll continue off to the east, Reynolds Pond Road. So we're going to actually just take a look at this and just take a look at some of the velocity scan and see if we're actually, what we're seeing here on the velocity signature. This doesn't want to work for me again, but we're going to, all right. So what we're going to look at is the velocity signatures. Unfortunately, the radar is located right over top of Ellendale, so what you do is you lose a lot of that ability to see any rotation in and around Ellendale, so it's a little bit more difficult, but the main portion of that storm system would be in and around Ellendale that we're seeing that storm system. So let's just jump back to the radar. So but I will actually go back and show some of the towns that you're now in the clear that were issued under that tornado warning. We did have tornado warnings, Bridgeville. We did have tornado warnings in Greenwood. You are now good to go. So you can come out of that safe shelter. I'm going to just step off camera, be able to turn off this lightning so it's not blocking. But as you can see, there's also just a lot of lightning with this storm system. So certainly something to keep in mind if you are in and around this storm system, that you're going to be seeing a lot of cloud-to-ground lightning. That can cause issues, so make sure you're inside. You need to be inside even if you're outside of this tornado warning that is currently in effect. It's not in effect for Lincoln, just to our south, but Route 113 corridor. You certainly should not have been driving on that road. Route 16 off towards Milton. That's where that tornado is tracking. This tornado warning, the rotation that is being seen on radar is right along the 16 corridor, moving due east, 40 miles per hour. So it is racing off to the east. So certainly keep that in mind. So zoom in a little bit closer, some more towns. So now that we're seeing the storm system is actually getting closer to the edge of the tornado warning, let's actually look at some of the places out ahead of this storm system that needs to be prepared just in case this storm does start to enter your area. And we do see that tornado warning expanded off to the east. So the town of Milton, that's one of the locations that we would be dealing with that storm system moving through the area. So let's make sure we can get that pan. We can move this around. Wapples area, Drawbridge area, so the Route 1 corridor. Right now we're keeping track on that Route 16 corridor. The storm system, of course, is moving directly over top of Ellendale now. If you're on the opposite side, if you're on the west side of Route 113, give it 5 minutes, you can come out of your safe shelter. If you're from Owens off towards Ellendale, on the west side of Route 113, you have about 5 minutes, and then you can, of course, come out of that safe shelter. Probably still want to stay indoors, though, because the storm is producing a lot of lightning, and you don't want to be outside if you see any of that lightning out there. Lightning is one of the most deadly things when it comes to thunderstorms that move through areas. So Ellendale, Fredericksburg, Robbins, that's where we're seeing that storm system. Main rotation would be directly over top of Ellendale. So let's just zoom this in and see some of these roadways that are being impacted. Schooner Run, Spicer Road, Sawmill Road, Orchard Road, Reynolds Pond Road. So we're just zoom this in even further to see some of these these smaller communities, some of these roads that may not be typically seen. So Cary Lane, Holly Church Lane. If you live on in those locations, you need to be in your safe shelter. You need to be in your most interior room. You need to be away from windows. You need to be in a basement, really. That's where you truly should be. But if you don't, a lot of people closer to the beach don't have basements, and that's understandable. You need to be in a room with no windows and then bring a pillow in there just to keep yourself safe. Piney Branch Road. So that's another area being impacted by this storm system. Reynolds Pond Road. Let's go a little bit further off to the east. So there's a private drive there. Hummingbird Road. So if you live anywhere along Hummingbird Road, and then that tornado warning, well, it goes right until the Route 30 corridor. So if you live along the Route 30, you also need to be in that safe shelter. So let's zoom this radar out just a little bit so we can see a little bit more. Fred's Way, there's another location that you need to be in that safe shelter if you live there. So we're going to zoom out a little bit further, and we can see tornado warning is still in effect until 6:45 p.m. So that goes for another 7 minutes that we're going to continue to be tracking this storm. Unfortunately, it's a little bit difficult to see the rotation, as I was telling everybody. It's a little bit difficult to see that rotation on radar because the radar, of course, if you've ever been driving down the Route 113, you see that big white ball along the highway. That's the Dover radar, and it's pretty much where the storm system is going over currently. So here we go. We're going to actually look out to the east, to the west, really. If you're on the west side of Route 113, you're now good to go. You can come out of that safe shelter, but still you want to stay indoors because we are still seeing a ton of cloud-to-ground lightning with this storm system. Ellendale, you're now on the backside of the storm, so if you were going to see a tornado, we're past the point that you would have seen it by now. We're now seeing that storm system pass off to the east of Ellendale, and now it's moving towards Milton. We can actually hear it on our roof here in Milton. The good news is I do believe they're going to allow this tornado warning to expire. We haven't seen it expanded off to the east any further, but we're going to keep a close eye on that. So if you live in Milton, but really we need to keep a close eye all across Delmarva because the tornado warning storm is not the only storm that we're worried about. We have severe thunderstorm warnings in effect pretty much all of Delmarva. There's a severe thunderstorm warning out for all of Worcester County, all of Sussex County, all of Wycomico County. This storm on the other side of the bay produced 80-mile-per-hour wind gusts in Washington, D.C., 85-mile-per-hour wind gusts. Trees were brought down. Hundreds of thousands of power outages were produced. And then even on the eastern shore of Maryland, we saw 60 to 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts, which has caused power outages. So these storms, they have a history of producing damage. They have a history of causing destruction across the region. So let's just take a closer in. The good news is in about an hour, we should be clearing a lot of these storm systems out of the area, and things should be certainly starting to improve across the area. But still, that tornado warning still in effect until 6:45, but you're now starting to see that storm system move out of that tornado warned area. So if you were going to see that tornado warning expanded off to the east of it, it probably would have already been issued. But still, if you're in Milton, which is just off to the east of that tornado warned storm, seek safe shelter. Move into that interior room just in case we do see this expanded off to the east because this storm is moving rapidly. 40 miles per hour, as I said, moving 40 miles per hour off to the east. It's now impacting Georgetown. The severe storm is, not the tornado warned portion of the storm. And then it's going to move off towards Lewis, Rehoboth Beach, Dewey Beach, of course. So let's just time out the tracking of this storm. This storm is moving off to the east at about 40 miles per hour. So it is now moving into Ellendale. We can hear it on our roofs. It is really coming down out there. So the storm system moving off to the east at about 40 miles per hour. So here we go. Lewis, 6:51 p.m. So be indoors. Lots of lightning with this storm, a lot of cloud-to-ground lightning, which is extremely dangerous. Also, 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts could be seen as this storm pushes off to the east. And then also, Ocean View, 7:09, South Bethany, 7:18 p.m. But now let's focus back in on that tornado warning. We're going to take a closer look in on that tornado warn area of the storm. It is now actually appears to be fully outside of the tornado warned area and actually is moving through Milton currently. So Milton, Wapples area, Harbison area, Sand Hill area, you need to be in that safe shelter with this storm system continuing off to the east. Now crossing Route 30. We're going to zoom in a little bit closer. So we have still about 3.5 minutes before this storm system, before that tornado warning is allowed to expire. But it does look like this storm system, they're going to allow the storm system, the tornado warning itself to expire, since we haven't seen that expansion off to the east. So it does not appear that we have seen any actual evidence that the tornado was seen, but it was a tornado. It was radar indicated. So what that means is the National Weather Service meteorologists that are tracking this storm system saw rotation on the radar, so they issued that tornado warning. So the main storm system that was warned for that tornado is now directly over top of Milton, and it's going to continue off to the east. But that tornado warning is actually, it only goes to the west side of Milton, really. So we're actually probably going to go off the air in just a few short minutes because this tornado warning will be allowed to expire. But until it does, we're going to stay on air just in case we do see any last-minute expansion off to the east. But if you're in Ellendale, we were worried about that storm system. It was crossing over the area. You're now in the clear. That tornado warned storm has now moved off to the east, so you can come out of your safe shelter. Reynolds Pond Road, if you're on the west side of Reynolds Pond Road, probably close to that intersection with Route 16, you're in the clear now. But anywhere in Milton, Wapples area, you need to be in that safe shelter currently, because even, as I said, even without the tornado warned area, this storm has been producing a lot of destruction, and we do have those tornado warnings. Well, we do have those severe thunderstorm warnings out for pretty much all of Delmarva, because this storm has had a history of producing a lot of destruction in many areas across the region. But it does appear the storm system has now moved completely out of that tornado warned area. So certainly it does seem like good news when it comes to those aspects. But if you have seen any damage, be sure to send it into Coast TV, and we'll be sure to get it on the air. And also, it'll help us determine whether we actually did see a tornado across the region. So we're going to actually just look at the main storm system and track it out again just to see some areas that are going to be impacted by this storm. I did actually pull it out a little bit too far. So we're going to move the radar off to the east so we can get a little bit easier tracking of this storm, so we can see, so we can actually time out the whole storm system. That was not the one I meant to use there. Here we go. So here's the squall line. So here we go. We're going to actually clear some of this off so it's not interrupting. So the squall, this storm, as I said, is racing off to the east at 40 miles per hour. So here we go. And as you can see, anywhere in that orange shading is under that severe thunderstorm warning. So that includes all of Worcester, all of Wycomico, northern Somerset, all of Sussex County. So we can see here the storm system. Salisbury, 7:02. Ocean Pines, 7:23 p.m., 7:34 p.m. in Ocean City. That's for wind gusts upwards